Welcome to Permission to Kick Ass, the show that gives you a virtual seat at the bar for the real conversations that happen between entrepreneurs. I'm interviewing all kinds of business owners, from those just a few years into freelancing to CEOs helming 9-figure companies. If you've ever worried that everyone else just seems to get it and you're missing something or messing things up, this show is for you. I'm your host, Angie Coley, and let's get to it. Hey, welcome back to Permission to Kick Ass. With me today is my new friend, Sarah Walton. Say hi.
Hey, Andy.
Oh my gosh, I'm just from pre-recording and all the discussions we were having, I'm already loving the energy and excited about this one. So tell us a little bit about your business and what you do.
Yeah, sure. So I am a business coach. I know if you just went, oh my God, you can't throw a cat without hitting a business coach. That is sort of true.
Yeah.
But my specialty is sales and abundance. And I work exclusively with women. And my job, I believe, is to put more money in the hands of more women.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I freaking love that in terms of a mission, especially since historically I feel like women are really uncomfortable with not only asking for the sale, but also accepting money for what they do. Like I hear so many people that I work with, women in particular, that are like, no, that took me like 5 minutes. I'm not going to charge for that. 5 minutes, the time that it takes is irrelevant. The value is what's relevant here. And did that take you time, take some of your expertise, provide value for the other person? And yes, you absolutely can and should ask for compensation. It's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to be honest, I think our proclivity towards this is by design. We have been taught this since a very young age. You know, I call it the invisible work that women do on the daily that makes the world work. And we don't get paid for it. And isn't that convenient for everyone else?
Yeah.
But no, this really is by design. And it comes from something that a beautiful psychologist, Terry Cole in New York City came up with. She has a really interesting book called Boundary Boss. I don't love the title, but I love the content. In that, she coined a phrase that I really love. It's called high functioning codependence. And it's funny, if I'm ever speaking in front of a group of women and I say high functioning codependence, everyone goes, that's me. I'm like, I haven't even defined it yet. But there's like something about it where we all go, yeah, no, that's me. That's me. And it's this idea that we are extraordinarily high functioning. I mean, most women are. It's unbelievable. Like I always joke around. It's like we can be on the phone and like, yeah, can we have chicken for dinner? Hey, did you guys send that email? No, that goes over there on that shelf. Yeah, no, I'll be home at 5. Like we just do this, right? We're incredibly high functioning, but there's a rub there, right? And the rub is it works so well for the rest of society that we overfunction like this, right? That there's a codependent side and we get rewarded for it. I mean, how many times have you heard another woman say, oh, she's so selfless?
Oh, yeah.
Like that's a good thing that she has no self. And this is a good thing. Yeah. It's like, what? And then there's this whole, oh, you're killing it, man. You look great. You're doing it. It's like, she's miserable. But we're taught that as long as everyone else around us is okay and they're happy, who gives what our feelings are or who cares what your feelings are? And it starts at this really young age of like, you're crying or whatever. And someone goes, oh, don't cry. Where's my pretty girl? It's like, your feelings are making me uncomfortable. Can you instead make me happy? And we learn that at a young age and it ends up showing up as, could you please do all the invisible work and not get paid? Thanks. And it's like, well, that's really nice for everyone else. But you guys, this is by design that we get scared to charge, right? And this whole conversation around money, if I may, I'm listening to the book. I don't know if you know who Jamie Kern-Lima is.
Write that
She
down.
is the founder of It Cosmetics. She's just absolutely freaking delicious. I've just recently been introduced to her. I wish I'd been introduced to her years ago because her story is like harrowing and fantastic and inspiring. But basically, she had really bad rosacea. And so she created a makeup company to cover her own rosacea out of her own living room, quits her job, has no dollars, right? Like $0, right? Has heard no. That CEO of QVC calls her and says, stop sending us your stuff. We will never put you on air. An investor is like on the last meeting with her. And he's like, I'm not investing with you. And she's like, why? He goes, you're fat and no one's going to buy makeup from someone who looks like you.
Fuck you,
like,
buddy.
This woman heard no. Like, and mean no, not like no, right? Like mean no's. She sold her company to L'Oreal for $1.2 billion.
I
right?
love
I mean,
that.
talk about like dance all the way to the bank, right? But the part of this story that goes to this conversation about us not charging because it was just 5 minutes is after all of this, she's been on the Forbes richest women list for the last 3 or 4 years. And for years, she wouldn't call it that when anytime she mentioned it. Like if she was a keynote speaker, whatever, it was Forbes' most successful women. She changed it. And when Forbes first reached out to her and said, this is what we're pretty sure your net worth is. Do you want to comment on it? She's like, I'm not ever commenting on that. Don't talk about my money, right? Totally freaks out. She's on the list with like Taylor Swift and Oprah, like Meg Whitman, right? She's up there. And the editor of Forbes said, this is so interesting. And it happens every time the men who are on the Forbes richest list call us back and say, nope, it's not enough. You need to listen. They send us statements. They make sure we know exactly how much they have, and they talk about it, and they make us make sure the numbers are right. And every woman says, I'm not talking about this.
Holy crap.
Every time. And I was like, what the heck is that? Is that not fascinating? Like that is like,
it is.
What a psychological experiment that is, just to sit there and go, what? We don't talk about it. So I'm not charging you for my 5 minutes.
We don't talk about it. And it gets, I remember being frustrated when I was still in corporate at that kind of dichotomy between the need to be your own best cheerleader, hype yourself up, share your experiences and your wins in order to get ahead, but also that deep discomfort being raised and socialized female with what I perceive to be bragging about myself. And I've had so many conversations with people over the years that are like, don't you realize you've done this and you've done this and you've done this? And the tendency was always to be like, and I did that with these resources and with this team support and in collaboration with these people, and like always felt deeply uncomfortable taking part for or taking credit for even just my part of that piece, which is absolutely truthful. There's nothing bragging about it. That's just a fact, but that's so uncomfortable and so interesting. And I knew her name sounded familiar. I was like, I couldn't quite place it, but I have rosacea as well. And It Cosmetics is so here's a testimonial to you, Jamie, wherever you are in the universe, that I keep getting comments on my glowing skin lately when people see me on Zoom calls. And I'm like, that's part excellent Zoom filter and part this lovely tinted moisturizer that I wear from
It Cosmetics, baby. Yep. She did it. I mean, it's so funny. She would talk about, she'd be on camera and like her makeup would start to crack under the heat of the lights. And like her editor in her ear would be like, dude, there's something on your face. She's like, it's not something on my face. It's my rosacea. It was like this horrible, and she couldn't find it. So she fixed it herself.
She fixed it her damn self.
She fixed it herself. And when she finally got on QVC, thank you very much for people who called her and said she'd never get on. She did something else no one had ever done, which is she took her makeup off on live television to show her rosacea and then covered it with her makeup. And they sold out in 7 minutes.
Holy crap.
And they were like, do not do that. Do not show people. Don't tell the truth. Hide all your flaws. You're a woman. You're supposed to be perfect, right? Like that was the message. And I'm just so grateful for women like this who are out there going, no, these are my flaws. Yes, I am on the richest women's list. And that we don't have to hide it with this anymore. This is just insanity. And we've been like spoon fed it our entire lives. So there's no like, I always knew that the book Lean In always bothered me and I couldn't figure out why. I mean, God love her. I know it had incredible intentions and I know, but it always like had like this, like it left like a layer on me. I don't know, like it was like, I can't wash this off and I don't know what it is. And it was that I think very unintentionally, she was making us wrong for not knowing to lean in. And it's like, dude, we've been shoved out forever. Yes. So why the hell, how are we supposed to know how to lean in? And I think I finally figured that out. Like it took several years. I'm like, oh, that's what it was. There wasn't compassion there. There wasn't the truth telling that needs to happen first, which is, listen, this is not your fault. I mean, they have to freaking teach women in Harvard how to raise their hands. Like, there's a class on that. I mean, it's unbelievable. Like we've been told to shut up and be small, right? Literally, physically for all of our lives and be flawless and be perfect. And then they're like, well, why aren't you leaning in? And it's like,
why aren't you standing up for yourself? Why aren't you fighting for what you believe in? Like every time I do, I get told I'm being emotional, that I'm being rude, that I'm being bossy, that I'm being a bitch. And I'm like, somebody can literally say the exact same things in the exact same way that I did, but have a masculine voice and happen to have a penis. And he is like, bold and assertive and confident and just the breath of fresh air we need around here. I'm slightly resentful of having
It's
my ideas
unbelievable.
stolen a couple
Yeah.
of times, but you know, you live and you learn to stand up for that. And you know, these days I go, oh, I'm so glad you're in agreement with that. If you remember, I presented that a couple weeks ago. Cool, I'm excited. Let's do this. Like, I'm not letting people take credit for my work anymore. And I actually wanted to circle back to something that you said about like over functioning, because I had a recent experience with that too. We just got back from a live event my partner and I put on called Eat Play Launch, and it was great in that like the content was there, the support staff was there, and there wasn't really anything for me to do on site except be present and support the people that came. And that was so deeply, weirdly uncomfortable for me to sit and like wait to see who needed help instead of just inventing a whole bunch of busy work so that I felt like I had earned my place there. It's so bizarre that even when you get to that level where people are paying 4 figures to be in a room with you, I feel like I need to work. I need to work.
Well, sure, because we've been told from a very young age that our value is based on our productivity.
Yep.
Right? It's like, I mean, I say this to women all the time, especially women who've grown people. I like to say those of us who grew people, that like, if you have other people living in your home, yes, who like produce laundry and things like this, right? I'll say to women, how many times are you folding laundry while the rest of the house is watching TV? And what you're modeling when you do that is that your time doesn't matter and theirs does. And that is not accurate. You are living in a community where everyone pitches in. And if one person is doing the dishes, someone else is drying. If someone's made dinner, someone else does the dishes. If you produce dirty clothes, you are responsible for washing said dirty clothes, right? And this idea, but that's where that came from. I mean, I really, really believe that, Angie, that's how that happened, to the point you can't even sit at an exquisite event and just enjoy, just receive, right? Because we are supposed to be constantly giving. Yeah. And that's by design. I really think it's by design. And that's why I'm saying, you know, back to this whole lean in thing is, I think the first thing we have to do for each other is really say, hey, dude, come sit down with me for a second. Yeah. Like, let's talk about this. Like, it's okay. You don't have to be on 24/7. What's going on? And watch a woman's shoulders drop and have her go, oh my God, you know what happened yesterday? Right. And it's like, we rarely give each other those outlets. And Angie, I really love what you're doing with this podcast and this whole idea of like, let's tell the truth. Like, let's have these conversations because we need them so badly. It's so real. And we can't slam, it's that whole lipstick on a pig thing, right? We can't slam more productivity and more efficacy and more money on top of this high functioning, over functioning codependence here, where it's this constant reward for not being happy. It's a constant reward for driving yourself into the ground as long as everyone else is okay. And we really want to help support each other and calling that out, never in a bad way, because we've all been trained to do it, right? So it's like, hey, have you been over functioning? Yeah, I have. Oh boy. You know, all right, cool. No problem. What do you need? What can you delegate? How can we support? Do you need a break? And just being there for each other, because once we start to get those breaks, we're actually replenished enough to make really brilliant decisions, like really effective, gorgeous business decisions that grow wealth.
Yeah. Rest isn't something that you earn. Rest is something that you take. And that, I feel like I've been having a conversation with people that I work with a lot lately about like, I have not missed a vacation that I have planned for myself, even if I didn't actually really go anywhere. I took that time off. I disconnected from work. I made sure to build the structure around it so that I could disconnect from work and not do anything about that. And if you're not taking your vacation and building the walls around that, I want to know what we can do to change that, because it is not a bad thing for me to take mine. And it's certainly not a bad thing for you to take yours. You need the rest, especially if you are a creative person, creative service provider. It's real interesting. The past couple of years, I've been doing a lot of like personal coaching and self-development, which I highly recommend for everybody that wants ongoing success. Look inward for answers, because you've got them. And I found out, I don't know if you've heard of Rhonda Britton. She's got this coaching program that's, oh goodness, I can't, Fearless Living is what she teaches.
I haven't heard of it.
Oh, you might, she's got this fascinating story. I don't want to go too deep into it, but basically she witnessed a horrific, like traumatizing event in her teens, murder, suicide of her parents, and went down a really bad path for many, many years out of this fear-based response, and talked about how she learned to get herself out of it. And she calls it this like wheel of fear. And I think we've all felt that, like you just spinning around and around and around on it, getting more intense every revolution. And then she created this thing called the Wheel of Freedom, which I love. And everybody's got a different freedom wheel, but it's basically that trigger that when you catch yourself in that downward spiral, okay, what can I do to stop that and then get off of that and move over here to where I am being me and I'm being happy and fulfilled, or I'm at least on my way there and on a wheel that's going to spin me there. And something that I found out about myself that I found surprising, but it's one of those things that's surprising, but not that surprising, was my essential nature is creativity and joy. And that like, I need this to be able to do my best work. And it's not something to feel guilty about, that I'm trying to build a business where I'm having fun. I'm bringing people like you onto a show and we're having a blast talking about stuff. This is actually me bringing my best to the world by operating in creativity and joy. And I don't have to feel guilty about that because I am not working like a dog to produce it, you know?
Yes. Yeah. Somewhere along the line, we got that tangled too, right? It can't be work unless you're miserable. What?
Yeah.
What? When did that happen? Yeah. I love that you're sharing this, Angie. I will say too, just to share, 2022 was the most, I think, personally challenging year I have ever had in my life.
Oh, no.
My daughter was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. She was struggling with severe anxiety about 6 months after that. My son started dealing with anxiety. My husband and I got divorced. My dad got diagnosed with Parkinson's. We have an Alzheimer's diagnosis and stage 4 kidney failure in the family. I was like, I was like, are you kidding me? Like every time the phone rang, I was like, am I on candid camera? I mean, come on, this cannot be another call. And it was another call, right?
If I don't answer the phone, nothing bad can happen, right?
Seriously, right? I forgot I ended the year having to have melanoma surgery. Right? I was like, I literally was like, come on, you're kidding, right? Like the doctor called and said, no, it's melanoma. I was like, of course it is. Sure. When do you want to get the surgery? I was like, whatever. At this point, I got it, right? Mm-hmm. And in that year, I tripled the business. And people are like, how the frick? I'm like, first of all, I don't know. I mean, I know, right? But it's not like, I'm not going to stand up here and say, I have a secret sauce. But I think it's really about this idea that we as humans are highly adaptable, right? Mm-hmm. And that I love the wheel of fear and the wheel of freedom, because I always talk about abundance. So I run an abundance academy and I always talk about abundance as freedom. Mm-hmm. 90% of women I've interviewed before I created the academy, it's always, I want more freedom.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's abundance. That's what that is. Because when you feel abundance, are you not the most giving, generous person? You're like free skipping through the forest, right? You're like, bring it, world. And I think honestly, like when we're talking about this, I think that's what happened in 2022 for me, is I got unbelievably grounded in this idea that like, okay, life is going to continue to happen and I can make work so fun. And I was very honest. I do a show called Coffee with Coach that's live streaming on YouTube. And I showed up just after I got this unbelievable call about my daughter, and I'd been crying all morning, and I just showed up without makeup on. And I'm like, guys, just had the worst week of my entire life. We're going to do this. And I'm going to coach myself live, right? I'm like, what the hell else are we going to do? Like, let's go. This is what life looks like when it's working. And I sat down and I just walked through, what I do. I call it the triangle of like really understanding what's happening to us as humans. Mm-hmm. And I love that you were just sharing, like you find yourself in this downward spiral. Like there's so many people out there offering so many freaking amazing tools to help you snap in that moment to go, okay, what's real? What can I affect? And what do I need to process? And I think if we can sort of kind of do that with each other and for each other instead of feeling judged or judging ourselves.
Exactly.
One of my favorite things I just said all through 2022 is like, what if absolutely everyone involved in every situation in my life right now is doing the very best they can? And I just kept saying that, like every doctor, right? My kids are doing the best they can. My ex-husband's doing the very best he can. I am doing the best I can. Like we are going to make this the most extraordinary experience we can. And that sounds so similar to what you're doing with those wheels. And I think we all sort of have to find these ways to remember that we have control over the moment.
Yes.
That's it. That's really the only thing we have control over, right? But that that is incredibly powerful. And I think when we can tap into that, whether we've been taught to overfunction, whether we've been taught our emotions don't matter, whether we just got that bad call, like whatever happened, I have a Post-it note, which you can't see at the moment, but I have a Post-it note on my computer and it says, who am I committed to being in the face of this?
Ooh.
And that Post-it got me through 2022.
I freaking love that. There was so much to unpack there. I love
hit
this.
Me, sister. Ask away. Sorry, I didn't mean to just blurt that out, but it just felt like that wheel of fear thing's real.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing that came out of that for me was like I wrote down that feelings are not facts. And that's one thing that has really gotten me through those anxiety spirals. And it was triggered when you said, is this real? And I was like, a lot of the times when the feeling pops up or the thought pops up and triggers the feeling, like those things are interconnected, but they're separate. And they often intensify each other if you don't develop the skills to look at them and go, ask myself, what am I feeling right now? Where am I feeling it in my body? Because usually like I can feel a pain happening right behind my right shoulder blade before the thought even comes up. And I know I'm feeling some sort of anxiety, right? Feelings aren't facts. What am I feeling? What am I thinking? Is that true? Is that something that I can change? If it's not something I can change, like that old adage, courage to let it go, right? And then you said abundance, which is something that, so I grew up in South Texas. I'm not using much of my twang right now, but I can turn it on when I want to. And us country folks were always thinking yoga and meditation and abundance and all that hippy dippy bullshit is what I used to call it growing up. I was very skeptical of it. And even now, I still kind of feel like those old reactions to the word abundance. But one day it occurred to me, and I don't even know where this idea came up. Money is made up.
That's correct.
It literally doesn't exist. We all collectively decided that this is a thing that's important to us. And it is a series of ones and zeros at this point floating over our head. It's not even tied to like gold and real stuff anymore. You can make as much of it as you want to because it's made up.
Correct.
It's amazing.
Yes. No, I love that you said that.
You can create as much as you want because it's not a real thing. And we've just agreed that it is. And feelings aren't facts. And oh my goodness, there was the other thought that just escaped, but maybe it'll come back to me and we'll circle back to it.
Was it the thought about abundance?
Oh, no, it was the thought about everybody doing the best that they can. Like, those are life-changing thoughts. Yes. Like, imagine how the energy of everything you're doing changes when you look at everybody around you, even the person that just pissed you off, and think, I bet they're doing their best right now.
Oh, makes me want to cry. Yeah, Angie, I'm so moved by that because I think it's so true. Anytime we really start to find ourselves, just react. It's like nobody wakes up and says, how many lives can I screw over today? Yeah. Like, people don't wake up like that, and listen, it doesn't make some behavior okay. I'm not excusing it. Yeah. But what we want to really notice is like, I wonder what's happening for them that they think that's the best they can do. Wow. Like, what's happening here? And God, what a world this would be if we were able to approach each other that way. I mean, especially in business, especially around money. This morality we've attached to this thing we've made up, right? It's just breathtaking. Can I tell you something happened with me and money? Yeah. Just kind of really, whatever. It ended up informing all my work. But just when I was starting out and I had, a half a penny and, some breadcrumbs to rub together when I was first coaching after quitting my nice, cushy corporate job, I was a keynote speaker at a conference in the Poconos. And I'm like practicing my talk. I'm going around my little cabin and I'm practicing. You guys are all going to think I'm crazy now. But I had this thought. I swear to God, it was not my own, but it came in and I heard the phrase, money is love. And I was like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. I'm never saying that out loud. I was like, what the fuck? I'm not the money is love lady. Right. And so I fight it. And I keep practicing this talk and I keep hearing this thought. And I'm like, what do you want from me? That is so dumb. Right. And then I remembered in my 20s, I worked at a tech startup. And what we were doing was digitizing Marianne Williamson's old lectures and all of her stuff. And if you don't know who she is, or she wrote based on the Course in Miracles, a return to love. And I spent a lot of time in the recording studio with her, a lot of time around her. And obviously some of it went in. because her whole theory based on the Course in Miracles, which I haven't read, so I'm not going to pretend I'm an expert. I'm not, but I know the crux of it is there's only two emotions. There's love and there's fear. And love's job is to stoke up fear so it comes to the surface so it can be healed and return back to love, which is why she named the book Return to Love. So this idea of don't be afraid, right? When love really enters a situation, right? And we've seen this in political leaders, right? Who really want to include and be generous. We kill them, right? Like there's this thing, like you inject love, all the fear comes up. Okay. So as I'm sitting there in the Poconos going, money is love. What in the actual hell? Right? It's money is love, money. And I was like, oh, money stokes fear. That's what that meant. Is money has that same love-like energy in that it will bring up everything you have not yet healed. Yes. And you're absolutely right, Angie. Right now, I mean, it's the most powerful tool we have access to today because of our agreement that it is. Yes. Right. It may very well be in the future we decide it's bananas or paper hearts. I have no idea. But right now we've all agreed it's money and it's incredibly powerful. Right.
I would like to get paid in bananas.
Wouldn't that be fun? Right. I'd like to do a banana split dive. Anyway. Right. So anyway, when we look at this, money's job is to come into our lives and help us heal. And I think our direct capacity to make more, have more, be wealthy, share more comes from our ability to heal. And so I think as I looked back on 2020, right, talking about money, I think the reason the business tripled is because I was forced to consistently expand and show up for people in my life, people in my business, show up for my clients, show up for myself. And the healing had to be almost instantaneous. Like I had children waiting for me. Like this was not something I could be like, I'll get back to you next week. Like I had to constantly heal and grow, heal and grow, heal and grow, heal and grow. And that grew my capacity for wealth and income. And I think that's directly related. So it's like if people come to me and say, oh my God, I hate money, I'm so sad. I'm like, well, do you want to heal that or you want to keep that? Because I really think that's where the secret sauce is.
Yeah. And I find that like it's so interesting to me how often like themes pop up in the discussions that are happening in my life. But the theme that seems to be recurring right now is I've made a joke that like my ultimate goal is to get rich. I come from a blue collar family. My parents were both truck drivers for the most of my life. And then my mom became a pastry chef. That's an interesting story.
Mom. Love it.
She has her own baking business now. It's great. And I keep reminding myself that like, just because I have this goal, that this financial target that I've set up for myself and this, imagining of what my bank account balances will be like, that's not actually the ultimate goal. And my own coach helped remind me of this. And he goes, so why are you working so hard to hit this goal? And I'm like, because I want to spend time with the people that I love. And I want to be able to spoil them and share and show them the world and take them on adventures and share good food and like help them out if they need to. And he goes, is there any reason that you can't do that now without money? And I was like, oh, you bastard. I can totally do all that. I mean, minus the spending a ridiculous amount of money on them, but I can spend quality time with them. I can help them where I can. I can take them on cheap and free adventures. Like there's no reason that I can't do that thing now that I'm telling myself I'm trying to earn the money to buy the right to do. Right? How messed up is that? Like we get ourselves all twisted up over money and it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's been, like I said, there's been morality tied to it, right? There's worthiness tied to it. It's all made up. That is all ridiculous. And I love how you're approaching that. And I think that's true. I think part of the game of becoming wealthy, for me, is who you have to become in order to be that person, right? That is the amount of healing, the amount of self-awareness, the amount of generosity.
Yes. And not just generosity, but also receiving, which many of us suck at.
It's like try to be wealthy if you can't receive stuff. That won't work. Right. Yeah. And my own coach said that to me once. She's like, you have a hard time receiving, don't you? And that was at the beginning of 2022. And you'll notice we worked pretty hard on that. But it is part of the journey. And this is why I love entrepreneurship so much. It's why I love helping women make more money, because the money is freaking awesome, right? And God help all of us. I hope we make the world a better place with it. I think we will. I think it's time for women to be in control of money. I think it's about time. Drop bombs on other people's children. We'll drop food, water, and medicine on other people's children. What a concept. Just saying. Anyway, but what I love about all of this and what's possible is who women are becoming
Mm-hmm.
in order to do this. And that, to me, that's the actual prize. And the money's gorgeous. Let's use that for sure. But the irreversible, untakeable, untarnishable beauty of this is who we are becoming. And that can never be taken. You can never lose that, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I love that. I think that ties in perfectly to what you were talking about, having to grow your capacity. Like that, I just thought I pictured when you said that, a cup that was getting bigger so that you could just fill up more, which means you can pour more, right? You can give more. And like for anybody that might be struggling with that identity of like, I'm a giver, generosity is who I am. I agree. I am totally like that. Gift giving is one of my love languages. I love shopping the aisles and going, oh my God, this would be perfect for somebody. But I also like what helped me start to break down that wall between I'm a giver, but I can't receive, especially as a Southern woman. I don't need help from anybody. I got it.
Yep.
Was recognizing that, and this is another one of those things that came up with a conversation, a friend, I don't even remember. It hit me like a download, if I refuse this gift that somebody else is giving to me, and they're approaching it from the same place of generosity that I would in giving a gift, am I not robbing them of joy because I'm refusing their generosity under some misguided, like, I can do it myself, I don't need anything. Like my pride is impacting their ability to be generous, and it's robbing me of the benefit of their generosity. And this is just bad all around. I don't like it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's exactly right. You stop the flow of abundance when you do that, right? Because the flow of abundance needs both.
Yes.
It's got to have both. And so if you chop that, you are cutting off abundance, period. Right. And once we start to understand that, it's like, oh, dang. I don't want to do that. Right. Yeah. And receiving is it's one of the most generous things we can do, which sounds so counterintuitive, right? But it really is one of the most generous things we can do.
Absolutely. And the thought occurred to me too, for folks that were like, Marianne Williamson, why does that sound so familiar? She has one of my favorite quotes, the one about our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate, it's that we're powerful beyond measure. I whip that one out whenever I can and go, no, because I love that analogy of we've got this kind of human conditioning of the resources are scarce and we're all fighting for a limited amount of it, which ties into this concept of abundance we've got going so beautifully. But if you think about the beauty of what we offer the world and what we offer each other, and you think about it like a flame on a candle, the room gets brighter with every candle lit.
Yes.
And me lighting your candle does not actually make mine any less bright, and vice versa. And yours could go out 5 times and I can light it 5 times. And it's still going to be the same like amount of brightness on my end and added brightness when I light yours. So like, if we could just rethink about this, that like giving something to you doesn't diminish mine in any way. And in fact, the more we all give, the more we all get a little bit brighter. Yeah. Love it.
Yeah, that's really, there's a really great book if you want to take that further. It's called The Soul of Money by Lynn Twist. And she talks about the 3 myths that we're born into. And one is that more is better. 2 is that there's not enough. And 3 is, well, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And that we're born into those 3 myths. It's such a great book. I think she wrote it, I want to say the late 80s, early 90s. It holds. It holds well. So if anybody listening or if you want to grab it, I love that book. Such good stuff, but it's exactly what you just said. We've been taught that's not true. Right. But it really is true. We can give and give and give and give, and there's always more. But that, another one of my beliefs about money too is that it's infinite. And people look at me and go, what? But if you take a second right now and just look around the room, your own room, wherever you are, if you're in the car, if you're in the gym, wherever, look around. Like I can see my computer, my camera, my lights. I got my little mug, right? My microphone. Every single one of these things I've traded money for, right? Every single one. And somebody created those. Yeah. They weren't there. Oh, and now they're there. Oh, and I paid money for them. And so you can actually realize at any moment you can create something and sell it infinitely. There's no shortage of ideas. Infinitely, you can make money. And I think we get money and time confused. Everybody thinks they have all the time in the world. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. And no, time is actually the only thing that is finite, but money is infinite. You can always make money. Always, always, always. If you don't believe me, go make some cookies and sell them to your neighbors. Like, oh my God, watch it happen. Like, it's just infinite.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you said that because I'm a fan of telling, especially the earlier stage entrepreneurs who are still in bootstrap mode and operating under this belief that I've got to do it myself because I can't afford to pay somebody else to do it. And I often challenge them and say, well, you're going to spend no matter how you slice it, but you have to decide if spending money is more expensive or spending time is more expensive.
Yes.
I know what I can make in an hour. So if I spend an hour of my time and I assign a monetary value to it of like, let's just say $500 hour of my time. And I spend that doing something that a really like, I have an audio engineer and on the surface, people who are like, oh man, I want to produce a podcast, but that seems so expensive. But for an hour of his time cost me around $50. And he doesn't even take like a full hour, but I'm happy to pay that because I would be spending so much time and brain power trying to figure out stuff that he knows and can do super fast. So could I do it? Yes. Technically, I even took a course on how to like do some minor edits, you know, because every once in a while something slips through and I don't have enough time to reach out to him and be like, hey, can you cut this out? I'll cut it out myself. But editing the overall episode goes to him because spending my time on that is not a smart investment for me personally, because that is better spent. That time is invested somewhere else. That is how that is going to return to me. And if I keep fixating on the cost versus the investment and how I'm spending my money, where I choose to invest my time, then I think you miss the big picture altogether. Focusing on money.
Well, absolutely. And the other thing that I love to work on with people is you're actually robbing other people of doing what they love.
Yes.
So I am a big fan of finding tens. And what I mean by that is, you know, on a scale of 1 to 10, what do you absolutely love doing? Right. And my video editors freaking love video.
Yes.
Like, I can do it. It's not a 10. This is a 10 for me. Like I would rather spend my time on podcasts or working directly with clients or my students or whatever. That's a 10. Right. But if we don't hire other people when they're doing their 10, we're actually robbing them of their experience. And I say to people, they're like, oh, but nobody's hired me yet, or I haven't sold anything yet. I'm like, good, but that's because you're not in the flow of this. You're not going to be your 10 because you're not helping other people be their 10. And it's like, oh. And invariably, once somebody hires, even if it's the tiniest hire, right? A graphic design, these people are freaking amazing. Copywriters, people who like research SEO, like, oh my gosh, there's so many amazing humans out there that like freaking kick ass at those things.
Oh, yes.
And you're not giving them the opportunity to express it. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, that I get. And then we jump into the flow of this massive exchange of money on the planet. And now it can come into your world too. But if we blocked it off, if we try to hold it, it's a little bit kind of like, you know, what happens in nature if water gets unnaturally trapped, right? Like you're holding onto your money, you've trapped it. It starts to get kind of stagnant and rotten.
Yeah.
And it's not
such
serving
a good.
You. Yeah, it does. It
Such
kind
a
of,
good
you
visual.
know that feeling. We've all done it. Like, I can't spend. We've all been there. We've all done it. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And I'm not saying spend a whole bunch of money you don't have or go crazy and hire the most expensive person, but find someone who's a 10, man. Let them be a 10 in your business. And then you get to go be a 10 in your business. It's just so powerful. And I'm scrappy too. I mean, I'm scrappy. I edited my own podcast for the first, heaven help us all, 25 episodes. I'm sure you can hear the difference. You know, I edit my own video in a pinch. Same thing. Like if it's super fast or something, I just got to throw up onto YouTube quickly. I'll do it fast.
Exactly.
But it's not my sauce, man. You know, it's great to be scrappy. It's great to know how to do things. It's great not to be trapped of like, I need to get this up, but I can't. Right. That's not a fun feeling. You know, so you want to keep yourself free that way. But again, that goes back to abundance in my mind, to have the freedom to do what you need to do to feel really successful and full.
Oh, yeah. And I love what you said about that, because I think it solves one of the biggest fears of people that are kind of entering that stuck phase of business where like, hey, you figured some things out. You figured out your ideal client. You figured out your offer stack. You're bringing in the good money. And where do you go from here? Because you can't take on anymore. And you know that to grow, if you want to grow, then you're probably going to have to hire someone. But hiring someone is terrifying. So if you're looking for that 10, or if you're looking for someone to help you for right now until you can get enough breathing room to figure out what a 10 even looks like, then great. And then keep that in mind, that I want to put people where they are in their best, highest, most excited energy, doing work that they love, problems that they're good at solving. Like that happened to me with my most recent VA hire. Been working with her for about 1.5 years now. And when I brought her on board, I was like, I'm moving into live, I'm adding live events. So I want somebody that's kind of excited by event planning. I want someone that's excited by that kind of research that's needed with that, who's super organized, because that's a lot of details to manage, and who can handle like the back and forth correspondence. And that's what I'm really looking for. And this person would also be helping me with podcast production, because that's a lot of back and forth too. So in the course of working together, she is fantastic at events, but she discovered, and I was able to help facilitate that, which made me happy, a love for podcasts. She loves this so much that she is thinking she wants to become a podcast producer and like take over all aspects of management of that. So we had a talk not too long ago where I was like, okay, I hear this. And yes, I mean, I still need help on the VA side, but what I'm willing to do is to move most of the hours that we've decided are yours over to the podcast. And I will get help from another source for this. And she's so happy to do that. And she comes up with all kinds of ideas that I wouldn't have had the time to think about because I'm busy doing other things. So like putting people in the area where they're good and they're excited it's an abundance multiplier.
It is almost like your flame analogy, right? Like now everybody's flame's lit, right? Because everybody's excited to be doing what they're doing. And that's when businesses take off because we're in the flow of generating tens. I mean, like, what else are we going to do, you guys? We're going to sit around and worry? Hell no. Let's help each other be our tens. It's like so exciting. So exciting.
That was my favorite realization as a people manager, that I think is when I really made the transition from being like me focused and like, look at me, I want to shine. Because that was definitely me in my 20s. Look at all the reasons I want to shine. And also I feel guilty about saying that because I'm a woman. But as I grew and I started to lead teams, like that dichotomy is always there. I started to realize that being able to spot the talent, to cultivate and nurture it, to surface their ideas, give them the courage to pitch it, help them mold it, polish it, make it shine, and present it so that it gets bought off on, that actually makes me look like a genius. Because I found the really smart people who surface their genius ideas and I actually have to work a lot less hard instead of like managing their workload and managing mine, trying to have everything under my control and up to my standards. I get to let other people shine, work a little bit less hard, generate brilliant ideas I might not have come up with otherwise. And we all look smart as a result. I love this strategy.
That's great. Abundance of work right there, sister.
Right.
Yeah, that's it. That's the sauce.
Oh man, so many good things. So many good things. I'm like looking over my notes here going, I don't even know where to dig into the rest of this.
So many fun things. It's true. I love conversations like this. I mean, I just think I wish more people would kind of open the kimono this way and just talk about it. Like, you know, it's so easy, given the environment we were all born into, to just despair, right? To just get to that point of like, I'm never going to make it. It's never going to work. You know, and the other thing I hope people understand, or maybe they take away from today, is that, you know, as your business grows, as you get more successful, problems don't go away. They just change.
Yes.
And I think, you know, I always say this with like, universe, I'm not asking, but what 2022 taught me is I really could handle anything. And that I knew that, right? It's not, my life has not been a cakewalk, right? But I knew that I could handle anything. And that year took it to a different level, right? The amount of things that needed my attention, dramatically. It wasn't like, oh, I can look at that. So it's like every single thing was highly important and highly urgent. Is as these problems change, right? As you as a human change, as you expand to be able to take on more, I think the other thing that increases is our confidence. And I love how Brendon Burchard defines confidence as just your faith in yourself to figure it out. And that's all it is. Isn't that a great definition? I know. I remember the first time I heard him say that, I was like, oh, that's a nugget of truth right there. But I just love that concept. And I think, you know, as you grow your business, as you find your tens, as you heal your relationship to money, as you expand your capacity for abundance, you will still have problems. And I think it's important to say that out loud because people think something's wrong. If they're like, but I'm successful now. Isn't life supposed to be perfect?
And I want to the finish line into fun time, happy lands.
Yeah, sure. I hit my 6 figures or whatever I hit my 7 figures, whatever somebody's goal is. That's an esoteric goal out there. But what's happening for you as a person, all the skills you're building along the way as you do this, they will all serve you. But you need to have people by your side who know is stuff still going to happen and that's okay. That's normal.
Yes.
Stuff's happening because you're still alive. The only time you don't have problems is when you're dead. So,
yes,
it's okay. There's going to be problems. There's going to be ups and downs. And I think just to expect that and know that, so you're not surprised when it happens and you don't think you've done something wrong.
Exactly. It's so funny that you bring that up, that quote by Brendan Burchard, because it was kind of my introduction to meditation. And I told you I had such a just mental block around it and such a skepticism for so long that in LA, when I was facing homelessness, this is like over a decade ago, and I was waking up with those middle of the night anxiety spirals. I'm sure you and everybody that's listening to this, like you wake up out of a dead sleep with fully formed thoughts and they're already going a million miles an hour. That happened to me, and the inspiration came to me one day to just keep breathing deep and chanting, I would say, peace, strength, faith in myself. And I would just keep doing that and breathing deep until I fell asleep. And did that solve any problem?
I love that.
No, but that let me get enough rest so that I could actually bring my best to solving a problem, which I thought was great. And
so
here, I'm going to throw a random curveball at you.
Hit me.
So how is 2023?
Amazing.
Okay, good. That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah, you're right. I should have said that. Like, guys, I'm great. Everything's okay. It was such a powerful experience. It really was, baptism by fire, whatever you want to call it. I don't even know. But to come out the other side, knowing when I could do all of that, I could get through all of that and deal with it. I didn't run from it. I didn't hide. I didn't pretend it wasn't happening. Like really facing these things and telling the truth about how hard it was in moments. Obviously, there's a lot of privacy things. I can't come out and be like, well, today, right? It doesn't work like that. There's dignity. There's caring for other people. There's all of those things. But what has happened so far this year is my confidence is so much higher. There's just a deep knowing that I don't think I've ever had. And I'm loving teaching this right now. Like, I know I'm here to put more money in the hands of more women. Like, I can say that now with such confidence and such clarity. Like, you have money problems, let's go. Like, bring them to me. And with love and compassion and joy, we're going to dance right through them and get you through to the other side. And I don't think, even though I'd been doing it for years, there's a deeper level, a deeper sense of knowing. And 2023 has been a freaking party.
Yes.
Started on December 31st when my doctor called and said, you've got clean margins. We got it all. I was like, great, I'm partying starting right now. And it has been just glorious ever since then. Yeah, it's been a wonderful, wonderful year so far.
Oh man, I can't think of a better note to end it on. This has been, I think we're going to have to do a part 2 at some point, a little bit later this year. Check in.
Anytime, Andy.
For now, tell us how these women can find you and can work with you on this abundance. Your site, tell us all of it.
You got it, sister. So you guys, I love hanging out on YouTube. I just hang out. I love it. I do have a show there where heaven help us all. It's called Sarah Uncut. I turn on my phone once a week and we don't know what I'm going to say, but it's lots of fun.
Those are the best.
So good. I also have my own podcast as well. It's called the Game On Girlfriend Podcast because this is not your practice life. The game is on. And then I have the Abundance Academy is my absolute favorite way to work with people. It's a year-long program because I think it takes a full year to heal all of our beliefs, right? To heal, practice daily. It's not a course like an online course at all. It is an expansive experience. And the women who go through it, we have one client, she's been in there for 4 months. She's already made $100,000 extra.
Nice.
I was like, what is happening in here? Like, it's just one of those, I hit my stride. It's my 10, right? And so I love the Abundance Academy is absolutely my favorite. We have several more who are now on their 15K months, which I'm so excited about. It's just delicious. And then once a year, I also run the Sales Mastermind, where we go for 6 months and we do a deep dive into sales and how our relationship to sales. Like, how do we understand our high functioning codependence and how do we break through that to understand the value, as you so beautifully said, Angie?
Yeah.
And then I have every year I take on a handful of clients. And so, people can always ask about that as well.
Excellent. I hope that everybody listening will take this resource that has been given to you and run with it as far and as fast as you can, because it's all up to you how you proceed. And I don't ever like to stop remembering that we have choices every minute, for better or for worse, about how we show up and how we continue. So keep on keeping on, people. And thank you so much for being on the show, Sarah. This was a blast.
Oh, Angie, thank you so much for having me.
That's all for now. If you want to keep that kick-ass energy high, please take a minute to share this episode with someone that might need a high-octane dose of "you can do it." Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the Permission to Kick-Ass podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you stream your podcasts. I'm your host, Angie Coley, and I'm here rooting for you. Thanks for listening, and let's go kick some ass.